to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moment of silence, please. Thank you. Roll call.
Mr. Bilbo.
Still present.
After all these years. Mr. Haas.
Here.
Ms. Howe. Here. Mr. Morelli.
Here.
Mr. Perry.
Here.
Ms. Edmond. Here. Mr. Schnee.
Present.
Mr. Urban.
Here.
Mr. Vogt.
I'm here.
Ms. Wakens. Present. Mr. McGinley.
Present.
All present.
Additions or deletions for the voting session agenda?
I would like to add an item of budget amendments.
We'll make that number 8 on the back page, if that's all right?
Sure.
Anyone else? We have a motion to adopt the agenda with the addition of the budget amendments as number 8.
So move.
Mr. Morelli and Mr. Perry. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Public comment, Mr. Ouellette. Did I say that right? Is that correct?
Willett, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to keep this very short, very sweet, and to the point. I would urge the county council to respect the opinion of both the committee on voting machines and the Board of Elections when selecting these this voting equipment. I would urge you to vote against this proposal from Dominion and explore another option. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rabo?
Yes, with respect to the Motorola, agenda item number 3 for the purchase for Motorola, the 911 system. As I said, I believe this council should, I know that you're voting on the approval for the contract, but I would suggest as far as the funding mechanism goes, that you utilize not the entire, the borrowing that was approved by this council. Instead, use the money that is in the community development account for the UDAG money. I think that it is an eligible use under the federal statute. It is one-time purchase, so and it is one-time money that the county's been sitting on for several years. I think that money should be utilized for that purpose, and it is an emergency service, so it is eligible under the federal statute. With respect to the for the Brown and Brown for the insurance brokerage, it was brought up as far as with the insurance. Is that for the mental health for the prison, or is that, no, that's for the
Broker for all the insurance.
for the insurance, all the insurances? Is that, overall, like for the umbrella? Okay.
All the insurances.
Okay, so I would support that, but as far as, I would agree with Mr. Ouellette on the not approving Dominion. I would suggest, I think that Mr. Ouellette, as far as with the with the second choice option when he spoke at the last meeting, I think Hart Intercivic is the least controversial. And also, from what I've seen over the past year, it is the most is the best choice as far as if you had to make between the three, in my humble opinion. That's just me, though. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Griffith?
The first item I have is the voting machines, is item number 1. The Board of Elections is the one that's supposed to pick those machines according to state statute. Our charter does not negate that, So I would think that we would follow the state law that says that the Board of Elections makes the recommendation, and then the manager would bring the recommendation to council for approval for the funding. There's also over $250,000 in a HAVA fund, and I'm wondering if we're going to be able to use that towards the voting machines. If you looked at your statements that were just released at the end of month statements, there's about over $250,000 of HAVA money that we received from the federal government back in 2000 and I think it was around 2010 or 12, or I'm sorry, 2002 when we put the electronic machines in. So there's some surplus there that we could possibly use for the voting machines as well. The other item I have is item number 2 and 3 should be put off until, or should be tabled until the new council comes in, because it binds the new council for borrowing and it binds the new council for contracts that are not necessary to be bound at this time. We don't have to approve a 911 contract today or at the end of the year when a new council's coming in is going to be responsible to make sure that we pay debt service on a $20 million loan. So I would respectfully ask the council table those ordinances or those items for the new council to vote on.
Mr. Urban.
Stephen J. Urban, Wilkes-Barre. I would like to make a comment on number 1, which is the voting machine system. Had a chance to take a look at some of this stuff in the last, probably 12 hours or so. And looking at it from a technical perspective and money perspective, I wouldn't recommend the Dominion system from a technical perspective, probably because of the equipment, the weight. Are you looking at power at every location? How many plugs are you going to need at the polling places? Just regular conventional items. Binding us also for 5 years is going to infringe on the next council's rights, in a sense, to go back and look at this contract. It's a mandate from the governor. It's not really a executive order. It's not an act of the legislatures. You're looking at it from we want to be pragmatic, have a good democratic process or democracy here in Luzerne County. I could tell you all eyes are going to be on Luzerne County. There's going to be lawyers on the ground. If we do something wrong, we're going to be sued. You can probably guarantee that, and then he's going to be responsible in the corner. So, looking at software validation testing, weight, jamming, length of paper, programming, looking at OCR scanning, ES&S, obviously, they do a barcoding scanning versus scanning an entire page of a document. OCR software has to read the entire document versus a little barcode. There's going to be probably 5 times more time involved with the voter waiting to have their vote tabulated with the Dominion system versus the ES&S system. So, and I'm not advocating one or the other, but just looking at it from a pragmatic point of view and realistic point of view, that next year it's going to be one of the biggest elections of our lifetime. Voter turnout is going to be extremely high. You're going to get people with the printout waiting to put their vote into a tabulator. And this thing is maybe, if it's 20 seconds, 30 seconds a minute, they might as well, some people may just throw it on the ground, walk out. You might have undervoting, disenfranchising voters. We're looking at probably 30 scans per hour on the Dominion system versus maybe 120 on the ES&S system, which is 4 to 5 times faster in tabulation. This is a long-term investment, so don't let $100,000 or $200,000 kind of scare you in this purchase, because it's pretty much going to be borrowed money. I mean, if you're going to spread it out over 10 years, you're talking maybe $10,000, $20,000 over the course of 10 years difference between the 2 systems, and between the 3 systems, you're talking maybe $500,000. I would put all 3 vendors in a separate room in the county, go up and down the room, have them renegotiate these contracts, redline any of the regular contractual language, the standard language that they have, to be more favorable for the county's terms. You can redline stuff and look at service. Maybe have them put up a payment and performance bond and make sure that they're here for 24-hour service for next day. So, and looking at the pricing of replacement parts, thermal versus laser printing, smudging versus non-smudging, I think we're going to be selling ourselves short if we make this a hasty decision. And I say be very careful, because we don't want any litigation next year, because we will hold the manager responsible for those that are coming on council.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to comment in regards to the agenda items? Very good. Moving down on the new business, motion to approve the minutes of the November 26th meeting. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Ms. Wakus, do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Saban. On the question? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any in opposition?
Yeah, no, minutes are verbatim.
Mr. Urban? Any abstentions? None heard, motion carries. Moving over to the other side. Motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the county manager to execute a contract with Dominion Voting Systems Incorporated for the purchase of new voting systems. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Morelli? Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Perry? On the question?
I just want just a real quick comment. Obviously, I've heard both sides, and I think that the council has done a lot of homework. The council management has done a lot of homework. I respect the committee that did their work, and then the process. It's, you know, at the end of the day, it's just a much open process. This is cheaper. I'm going to stick with this. I'm supporting this. It's cheaper. It's a recommendation of the manager. Not to say that every recommendation of the manager we will go by, but it is a big difference in cost. And I'll say this too, and this is it's a comment for today, and it's also a comment for tomorrow down the road in the next months, and that is about Mr. Pedri. I am so confident that if he came up with the other vendor, with the controversy that surrounded it, we've had people who will be going against you for that. And so, you know, I just hope that does not continue, that no matter what you say, people go against you. And that most likely will, but I'm sure you'll handle that the way you do. But with that said, I'm very comfortable with this, with choosing Dominion. I think it'll work out. I don't think that, you know, nobody will know if we want this vendor versus anybody else, if things will work out better or worse, but I think we're making a good decision, and we have to make a decision. So just want to share that. Thank you.
Anyone
If
else?
I could, Mr. Chair,
Haas?
it's well said. I appreciate that. And I just look at this whole process with this voting machine. This goes back years ago. I'm really disappointed once again in the state with how this was handled. And this agreement, out-of-court agreement, is not normal, and that's with advice from counsel that I found here. And this is not the way a republic runs. The legislature legislates; they hold the purse strings. It was done, backed around. It's like other things that happen. And that being said, we have to make a decision, nonetheless. And I will not be voting for this, not necessarily just because I disagree with the manager, but I really value Mr. Ouellette and the board on the Elections Bureau, who really put a lot of time and effort, and really, I couldn't have found any batch of people that were more suited for that job. They really took that ball and ran with it, and I think really did their excruciating diligence on that. And again, I think there's black marks all around on all three of the vendors, and unfortunately in this line of work, there's no perfect black and white answer for this. But nonetheless, I think in this case, I would go with another vendor. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Hay?
Well, we just spent 3 hours budgeting, looking to reduce costs in any way we can. And I find it very interesting that now there's like Mr. Griffith. Well, Mr. Griffith, like now you're saying go with the most expensive.
I didn't say that.
Well, it is the most expensive. Are you saying just?
I didn't see that either. Have you seen the quote?
No, I haven't,
Let's
but
not
I
get,
mean.
excuse me. We can't have that conversation, okay?
Anyway, whether the process was wrong or who's recommending it's wrong, I still think, for me personally, the most difficult issue is the one that we had regarding ES&S in terms of, what happened in terms of the ethics. And
Anyone else?
Yep, Mr. McGinley, I do.
Yes. Go ahead, Mr.
Yeah,
Urban.
Mr. McGinley, I value the opinion of the election board. I think they had a well thought out process. I think that they selected the proper vendor. I think that they eliminated the vendor that the manager selected as their last choice. I think that they're looking out for the people that work at the polls. A lot of elderly people in their 60s and 70s. It's very difficult getting poll workers to work, and I think they looked out for the entire process. Secondly, when it comes to funding, I think Mr. Pedri sat down with Dominion and negotiated a 5-year contract. I remember what the other vendor said last week when he came in, ES&S. And I'm not saying I'm for ES&S, but he said that no one sat down with him and tried to negotiate a 5-year contract. No one probably sat down with Hart and tried to negotiate a 5-year contract. So I think that the process itself of negotiating with one but not setting a level playing field with the other two vendors is flawed. So with that said, I will not be supporting Dominion.
Okay, anyone else?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, one more thing too. Going back to this, I think the public needs to know again that, once again, the machines we have are not hackable because, again, I've said this many times in here, it's a closed system. However, they are nearing their end of life, and again, I think voting for this is important because burn in the hand's worth two in the bush, and I don't know if this funding would be available in the relatively near future when our machines really do go kaput after 15 years. So again, just to keep that in mind when we look at this decision, that we'll have machines that will function regardless, and I think which ones are going to be best is going to, we'll see. We'll see in a couple of months, but I just wish it weren't during this very critical election, and I don't think necessarily holding the manager responsible for this. I would hold the governor of Pennsylvania responsible for this, to foist this upon us right here in this very critical election year, and it's going to be disruptive, regardless of what happens.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
I'd just like to make one point, if I may. I think the council, I believe the committee did a great job. They did their homework. They did all the detailed information. The Board of Elections did their part. I also think the council worked very hard, and it was not a hasty decision. This is something we've been working on for months and months. And we've had demonstrations here. Everybody's had an opportunity to come out and see the operation of the machines. I think the council's done a great job as far as their deliverance and work to make a decision. That being said, I think it's time that we make the decision. So roll call, please.
Mr. Bilda?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
No.
Ms. Hauk?
No.
Mr. Morelli?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Ms. Sedman?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
No.
Mr. Vogt?
Yes.
Ms. Wakus?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
3.
8-3.
Yes.
Motion carries. Moving down to number 2, motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the issuance of a tax and revenue anticipation note of $16 million. Do we have a motion? Mr. Volk? Do we have a second? Mr. Morelli? On the question?
On a question,
Yes.
Mr. Do you have the money from the borrowed money that for the Motorola system at hand right now?
Mr. Swets? The money that was,
Yes, that closed last Tuesday, the 26th.
yes, last Tuesday, the loan closed on last Tuesday, yes.
All right. When do you anticipate giving that money to Motorola? At the time of the contract is signed, or when performance is completed?
There are various levels, Mr. Urban, there's various times in the contract that list out when the money will be provided. It is not all provided in one lump sum payment in the beginning.
When is the earliest payment going to be provided?
I think when the contract is signed.
How much you're gonna give them money without any deliverables?
Yeah.
You give somebody money without any deliverables.
That's a contract, Mr. Urban. You're aware of how contracts work.
Okay, all right. Well, that's something that I never agreed with. I never pay anybody before I get something for it.
Okay.
Okay. I guess what I was really going to get at was that why are you going to take out a tax anticipation note when you already have money sitting there that you could be using? Since I don't think there's any strings attached to it. It's money you got from a bank and not from a bonding agency. I don't think the same restrictions are in place. Why can't you use some of that money in place of a 10?
We're leaving that in a separate account for just the 911 for transparency. So when we got this money in, that money will be in a separate checking account so everyone can see what the contract is, what money came in, and what was drawn down at different purposes. So we won't be using any of that money in place of the Tran.
Did you hear that,
Why-
Mr.
why?
Urban?
Yeah, I
Because,
did, but
because for
why?
transparent purposes, Mr. Urban, we don't utilize money that's specifically borrowed for a 911 project that guarantees public safety to utilize it for normal Tran purposes. If I tried to do something like that before, this council would have been screaming at me, how dare I move this money that specifically was allocated for these funds, and now you're advocating for this. I can't believe that you can't understand this.
I can understand that. I'm asking a question.
Oh, okay.
I'm not advocating for anything, Mr. Pedri. I'm asking a question.
Okay.
You're going to give money away to a company if the contract is approved tonight. It probably will be before any deliverables are even there.
That's the terms of the
I mean, I
contract,
think
is
the
what I'm
purpose
saying.
of council is to ask questions.
You can ask any question you like, and
That's the
I
only question that I have, okay? I understand the importance of public safety, so don't lecture me on that.
thanks for your input.
Anyone else with questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
Ms. Howe,
Yes.
Mr. Morelli,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Ms. Sedman,
Yes.
Mr. Schneek,
Yes.
Mr. Urban,
No.
Mr. Vogt,
Yes.
Ms. Wakus,
Yes.
Mr. Bilbo,
Yes.
Mr. McGinley.
Yes.
10-1.
10-1. Number 3, motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the county manager to execute a contract with Motorola Solutions Incorporated.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Bilbo and Mr. Morelli. I didn't finish the statement, but that's okay.
It's late. The deadline's over there by the newspapers.
All right. We have a deadline? Okay.
Yeah.
Is everybody comfortable with the, not, finish the statement? I think everything's in front of you, so. Question? Roll call, please.
Question.
Yes, go ahead, Mr.
Yeah, I'm not gonna support this contract because, number one, I haven't had the opportunity to see deliverables. Number two, I don't believe that the county needed to replace the entire system. I believe the county needed to replace the radio systems between the microwave towers. And I applaud the county for over the last couple of years for putting additional repeaters in place because I think the repeaters are what is going to improve the quality of communications, not necessarily a new digital radio system. Thirdly, I believe that a lot of people in the area were left out of the process because the process only included manufacturers. So we were limited to 3 people when the RFP went out. And the last one is that this contract contains money for maintenance. Maintenance, in my opinion, is an annual budget process. After the Motorola should, or any vendor should provide maintenance for a year, it should be part of the warranty. And after that, maintenance should be negotiated on an annual basis, and it shouldn't be used, you shouldn't be using borrowed money for maintenance. So those are my comments.
Mr. Morelli?
Yeah, Mr. McGinley, when I came on this council, I knew that this vote was going to be coming up, and I did a lot of research. And I just want to say that I've been in public office on a number of different fronts, a number of different years, and I want to say that this is one of the top votes, and one of the votes that I'm going to be most proud of. And here's why. With county council, many times people talk about safety within our county, and when you take a look at our role as legislators, really there's not much we could do. We could give money to the DA's office, we could fund the courts, but this is the one thing that we could do in providing more safety to the people out there. And it stinks that we have to borrow money, and most likely there will be a tax increase. But I've always said to people, if I could show you where the money is going and there's what you're getting for that tax increase, I'm comfortable with that. And I didn't vote for tax increases many times in the past either. So this is something that I feel better about for myself, my family, my son and other kids that are out there because of the safety that they're going to put in the schools and things of that nature. And so I'm very proud to be part of this and to be able to vote on this and be able to go out there and tell people that, you know, we're going to be making Luzerne County safer. Again, it stinks that we have to borrow the money, and it goes back to the taxpayers, obviously. But again, this is something we're moving the county forward, and we're making Luzerne County a better place.
Anyone else?
I just would like to add Mr. Rado's comments about that we check into that possibility that there's money there under federal statute so that we can reduce our borrowing.
It's fine.
I would, Mr. Morelli,
Yes, Mr. Urban.
I would agree with Mr. Rabel that there is UDAG money in the Office of Community Development. UDAG money was money that the federal government initially gave to communities for improvements, and the communities were required to pay that money back. At one time, the towns that borrowed that money were required to pay that money back to the county, and Andy's been sitting on that money for a long time over there, and it is unrestricted money. So I would strongly suggest you look into that and use that money, if possible.
Well, if I could add,
Pay
Mr.
back the other money.
And I think it's a good idea, and I don't think anybody's going to disagree with looking at it. And I think that the nice thing is that the money we borrowed, if I'm not mistaken, that if we don't use it, we give it back. So
Okay,
I don't think there's any
anytime.
harm. So it doesn't really hurt us moving forward here. So thank you.
I think you might as well, with Mr. Griffith, he brought about the HAVA funds too. I think we
HAVA.
could look at that. Yeah, Help America Vote Act.
That would
Absolutely,
be
another
for the
$250,000.
the voting machines.
You know,
right?
we're spending money tonight, so
Yeah.
I think that goes on those lines. I don't think that needs to necessarily be an amendment to either of these, but
No.
it's worth
I
saying.
don't think it does either.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Roll call, please.
Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Morelli?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Ms. Sedman?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
No.
Mr. Vogt?
Yes.
Ms. Wakes?
Yes.
Mr. Bilbo?
Absolutely, yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes. 10-1. Going down to number 4, motion to adopt the resolution approving a contract with the broker Brown & Brown of Lehigh Valley Incorporated for insurance brokerage services for fiscal year 2020 and 2021. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Ms. Howe? Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Urban?
Yep.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the contract. On the question?
I was pretty impressed with Brown & Brown's presentation last week. I think they showed areas where you could save money. I hope that they go and look into the old Lynn project down in Butler Township, and the federal government did give the money to build those buildings, and I believe that those buildings will be transferred to the county once they vacate the premises. I don't think those buildings have been transferred to the county, so I believe the contract or the federal government Department of Labor, who's ever paying for that, should be paying for the insurance on that too. So I encourage Brown & Brown to look into it, but I think Brown & Brown's been doing a very good job in the county.
Anyone else?
Uh,
Second?
I think Mr. Bogue, last week, brought up the fact that, can we look at some people that have equivalent expertise, but are from Luzerne County?
Okay. Anyone else? Roll call, please.
Mr. Morelli?
No.
Mr. Perry?
No.
Ms. Sedman?
No.
Mr. Schnee?
No.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Vogt?
No.
Ms. Wakes?
No.
Mr. Bilbo?
No.
Mr. Haas?
Absolutely, yes.
Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
No.
8,
Motion fails. 3-8.
correct? 3 yes, and
Mr. Chair.
Manager Pedri?
Paul is here from Brown & Brown. I just want to say thank you for your years of service to Luzerne County. I've been working with you over these past years as solicitor and as county manager, I found you to be professional and very thoughtful in your entire process. I want to thank you for you and Brown's service to Luzerne County. Mr. McGinley, I'm kind of stuck here at this point. This contract didn't go through. Do I have the ability at this point to now suggest recommend the next bidder in the process to county council to be voted on?
Ms. Crocomo?
Yes. You can make a alternative recommendation. We're in a situation where the resolution requesting council to approve the contract with party number 1 was rejected after a vote. The charter outlines in section 4.07 the manager's duties, which is then modified by section 2.09, which is the powers and duties of county council. Those are general provisions. There are no specifics in the charter regarding a situation like that. If we look to the administrative code, I reference section 2.03 that allows agendas to be amended and added. Of course, this agenda item was already on the record today. The charter, the administrative code, the council bylaws are silent for any waiting period regarding a second vote, and as such, the county manager can make a second recommendation, and then someone from council will have to make a motion, and then the process will continue as normal.
I would suggest that under 212 of the charter, the manager could ask the council to reconsider.
He can do that.
Can I see this with an 8-3 vote? Kind of strong no, Ms. Halk, on that. With that being said, so I would recommend, I'm looking at the committee here, I'd recommend the second bidder would be Joyce Insurance, $50,000.
Did I call it?
It's a Luzerne County.
I called them.
Manager's recommendation is to go to the second bidder, which is Joyce Insurance. Did you say that?
Yes.
At a fee of $50,000, correct?
I would also add that there, since there is this second recommendation, that there should be public comment.
Okay. Under question. We have to have we'll have public comment too. We don't have a motion yet, so we can't have a question.
The Choice Insurance is $50,000. That's $10,000 difference. We're talking about apples to apples here, correct?
When the committee reviewed these things, Brown & Brown was the committee selection based upon their work with the county and the price point. If council rejected that selection, we now move to the second one. Looking at the two low bidders here, Joyce Insurance would be the next one. That would be a comparable proposal to Brown & Brown's. The other one had add-ons that would greatly add to cost of that amount.
So we're $10,000 cheaper.
It would be $10,000 cheaper than my original recommendation, which was Brown & Brown.
Okay. Public comment? Yes, come up to the podium, please. I'm sorry, but that's the only way everyone can hear. Well, there are some people who might need their hearing.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
I have one question on the two companies. Is this a stock company? and not a stock company, I forget what the other one is, in the insurance business.
Brokerage?
Mutual type company.
Oh.
Where if it's a mutual company, the council is also part owner of it, and if the loss is greater than they have, they can come back and sue the county
I don't know.
on a mutual company.
Yeah.
And that's it. Whereas he's got the general, he's got the standard, where the stockholders foot the bill, not the taxpayers of Luzerne County.
Okay, thank you. Somebody else, Mr. Griffith, you had your hand up.
I can't say I'm surprised. I'm really not. I told Brian 2 weeks ago this was gonna come, and I was right, wasn't I, Brian? Yeah. Right, so the question that I have is, what's the big difference that the manager chose the higher priced one on this one, and we don't know if he chose the higher priced one on the voting machine now? So if this was $10,000, I think he said, $10,000 higher, what is the difference between Brown & Brown and Joyce Insurance, other than maybe Joyce might have contributed some money somewhere to somebody's campaigns? I'm not really sure why we switched midstream here between Brown and Joyce, but I don't want to be accused of saying that I'm in favor of a higher priced insurance company, but for some reason the manager wanted Brown & Brown, and I know they did a pretty good job for the last couple of years for the county. All of a sudden, Joyce is going to do a better job, I guess, for less money. So if Mr. Pedri could explain to the people why he picked a higher priced one, that would be very advantageous to the people of this county, because he's supposed to be working for the benefit of the people. So if he's...
I went with the committee's
Wait a minute. Are you finished there, Mr. Griffith?
Yeah, I'm done, thanks.
Thank you.
I went with the committee's recommendation based upon their years of service with the county.
Shiner.
I tell you, I think that there's nothing you people can do to shock us, but you outdo yourselves every time. And here we go again. I've been to most every meeting. Actually, I've been to every meeting since 2012 when this started. When did Joyce make their presentation? How can we possibly even comment on this before you vote without having any of the information? Because it's not in the packet that I looked at online. There's nothing there for Joyce. So if you're not going to go with the manager's suggestion on this, you need to table this. And you need to let the other insurance companies involved come and make their presentations to this council. This is not something you can vote on tonight. There is no public information. I can't comment. No one really here can comment about it because we haven't seen anything. And council, you yourselves can't do anything because you haven't heard anything about Joyce and what they have to offer, other than the fact that you're now being told that they're $10,000 less. You need to table this and bring the other companies in here and let them make their pitch, just as Brown & Brown did, and as you do with other companies that you're going to vote on. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Rabo.
I, for one, I'm not surprised, but I'd say a little surprised, because this is the second vote on a contract for, something that wasn't recommended by a committee, but now is being recommended, is being looked at. First was the voting machines and now this. So I have to ask the question, is this really based on the cost? And also I would ask the solicitor this question, because I think under case law precedents, if a legislative body was to go with the next vendor, wouldn't they have to state a reason, like a legitimate reason, as far as with the other vendors, why they weren't given the second opportunity for addressing, or whether or not they could come in and give a reason why that the council should choose them over what is on the list, or what the recommendation is by the management. I think that needs to be done for the sake of transparency, because I thought that's what home rule was about. I thought it was about, giving the opportunity, as far as with transparency goes for other vendors and not just choosing what's politically expedient. So I would like the answer to that, if you can. Thanks.
What's your case citation, Mr. Rabo?
I don't have it
You don't have
in
one
front
because it
in
doesn't
front of me.
exist, and under the Home Rule Charter, we're going through the process that's available.
Well, that's under the Home Rule Charter, but there is state case law precedence that you have to choose under the procurement code, I believe, under the state procurement code, where you have to state a reason, a viable reason why you're choosing another vendor than what was recommended by a selection committee or by a process. So I think that needs to be stated why, publicly. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Urban?
Without any details regarding this new contract, I mean, what kind of termination clause would the next vendor be under? Do you have any of that information? So, when the next council comes into place, are we going to be able to terminate that contract and renegotiate with Brown & Brown or whoever it may be that's out in the public openly, transparently, and honestly? This is kind of just like a switcheroo here at the last minute. You have another meeting coming up in about a week or so, and I think you should owe it to the public to be as transparent as possible with this contract. What kind of services are they offering? Are they comparable? Are they the same? Are there going to be any extra liabilities to the county? Can we be sued and basically lose our shirt, going with another company versus the existing company? I mean, these are all unanswered questions that I think, you're pulling wool over the public's eyes right now by making a quick switch. And it didn't really take much for some of us that have been in politics a very long time to guess the company here in the audience.
Anyone else in the audience? Yes.
Answer this question. On cancellation, the policy can be canceled at any time. There's no, but they've got to live it up to 3 years, 2 years, or whatever. And you cancel at any time.
I would say that I would ask the solicitor to review the policy and the contract.
We will, but this is not the insurance policy. This is not the policy. This is the contract with the broker.
So it's a contract with the broker.
No, you cancel with the insurance company too. because I've
Correct,
been
you
in
can.
business
You can. You're absolutely right about that.
any time.
Anyone else in the audience? Do we have a motion? Then we can go to the question.
A motion to table this, McGinley.
Mr. Urban? Do we have a second?
Make a motion to.
Second.
Ms. Hauk? Motion to table means there's no further discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Ms. Sedman?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Vogt?
Yes.
Ms. Waketh?
Yes.
Mr. Bilbo?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Hauk?
Yes.
Mr. Morelli?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Motion's been tabled. Moving down to number 5, motion to allow John and Catherine Waka.
Why you just tell me to wait? Why you just tell me to wait till the next meeting? I would not want to make that a recommendation like that. I'll be happy to sit down with council and go over it.
Okay.
I was trying to move us along quicker for council's
Mr. McGinley?
We have at least one more meeting, so we're okay.
Mr. McGinley, is there a way that we can, or can Joyce be invited to this meeting to?
We can invite
make the
anybody we wish.
presentation? Okay, I would like to have Joyce
Okay.
here to make the presentation.
That sounds very reasonable. Motion to allow John and Catherine Wega to advertise county-owned property for sale. Remember, this is only to authorize the advertisement, not a sale.
So moved.
Mr. Urban, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Miss.
Ms. Wakus?
Yeah.
On the question? Roll call.
Ms. Sedman?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Vogt?
Yep.
Ms. Waketh?
Yes.
Mr. Bilbo?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
I'm going to abstain on the grounds that Ms. Wega is the school board member for the district I work in, and I find no conflict whatsoever, but out of propriety's sake.
I think she's off now, isn't she?
Not yet.
Not yet? She's still
Couple more
couple
weeks.
more days? Okay.
Ms. Hauk?
Yes.
Mr. Morelli?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
10 yes, 1 abstention.
Yep. Down to number 6, motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the county manager to execute a district office lease amendment between Luzerne County and the U.S. Representative Matt Cartwright for space located within 20 North Pennsylvania Avenue, Wilkes-Barre, which is Penn Place. We have a motion.
So moved.
Ms. Wakes, do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Perry, on the question. Roll call.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Vogt?
Yes.
Ms. Wakes?
Yes.
Mr. Bilbo?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Hauk?
Yes.
Mr. Morelli?
Yes.
Mr. Perry? Ms. Sedman?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you. Moving down to number 7, motion to adopt a resolution regarding reduction in conservation board members. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Ms. Wakes
Second.
and Mr. Urban. Ms. Wakes, you want to comment on that?
Yes, the gentleman was in attendance, I think it was last week.
Yes.
We talked at the work session about the reasoning behind this. The movement now is to go with 7 members instead of 9. So to reduce it by, I believe, 1 member at large and also 1 farmer. And we need to adopt this resolution so that it can be sent to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in order to move it along regarding the reduction in conservation, in the Conservation Board members. It's totally supported by the staff of the Conservation Board and the board itself.
And I believe Josh also said that he has 2 people that are leaving the board and don't want to be
That's right.
reappointed.
That's
so
correct.
Right.
No one's gonna lose their seat with
Right.
this.
Right, thank you for that, Mr. Urban.
You're welcome.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any other on the question? Roll call. Roll call.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Vogt?
Yes.
Ms. Wakes?
Yes.
Mr. Bilbo?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Hauk?
Yes.
Mr. Morelli?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Ms. Sedman?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes. Now, we had one additional item that was added, budget amendments. Seeing of the hour that we're at this point in time,
Withdraw the item.
yeah, either withdraw or just do the one, if everybody's comfortable.
I'll make that item, oh, never mind.
We'll do the 1.
Never mind.
Well, I'd like
Excuse me?
Sorry.
We can do the 1.
I'd like to
Yes,
do
the
two.
one on planning and zoning seems to be a consensus there. Excuse
I'd
me.
like to do 2, if it's okay.
Well, let's do, the first one would be $101,000, am I correct?
Yes.
Planning and zoning,
So moved.
Second.
that was Mr. Urban. Ms. Wakes,
Well, I think we need to be clear, because Ms. Wake has had one recommendation.
but she
Yes,
just,
but I
she just seconded the
seconded-
motion.
I seconded the
What?
motion.
Did he give an amount that he wants to reduce it by 101,000?
101.
Okay.
On the question? Any public comment? Any public comment in that regard? I think most of the people were here during the work session, so you had quite a lot of information in that regard. That seems to be the consensus, I believe. Roll call, please.
Mr. Vogt?
Yeah.
Ms. Wakes? Yes. Mr. Bilbo?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Hauk?
Yes.
Mr. Morelli?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Ms. Sedman?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
Yes, unanimous.
What's the other one?
The other one is under County Council, Department 411 and Division 10, to reduce benefits life insurance by $1,000.
Okay.
From 1160 to 160. That's my motion.
Second.
Okay, that was under the county council budget, okay. Ms. Hawk makes that motion, Mr. Morelli makes the second. Public comment? Mr. Rabo? No.
No, on the budget amendment.
This is on the budget amendment. It's not on anything yet. Shortly. Anyone else? On the question, anyone? Roll call, please.
Ms. Wakes?
Yes.
Mr. Bilbo?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Morelli?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Ms. Sedman?
Yes.
Mr. Schneek?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
Mr. Vogt?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you. So as a result of the two motions, you have $2,000 that has been,
No, yes.
yeah, 102, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now we're at public comment. Mr. Urban, on the agenda?
Just want to express my dismay and displeasure with the voting machine vote. You know, I understand maybe a committee recommended a certain machine. I know ES&S had their issues with, you know, alleged ethical issues. That falls back on the county, though. You know, I mean, if they make the decision on what their staff does day in and day out, council does not. So, you know, what happens to somebody that previously worked here in Luzerne County, really if they had the permission to go to a junket or whatever you want to call it, and it was cleared by attorneys at the county, that's really the county's fault. You know, really you have 3 vendors. They're trying to sell you a product, something that we're going to utilize for many years out. I'd be looking at ease of use, be looking at longevity, I'd be looking at quality of service, be looking at technical specs, weight. How about storage, optimal storage temperature? Will, you know, are these brand new machines going to be stored over on Water Street? Is it climate controlled? Moisture. You know, you're getting different types of equipment in, might have different effects and impacts on the equipment based on the building that they're put in. You know, these things might seem trivial to you, but they're not to me as a person in technology. Somebody that, you know, gives service to end users every single day. These are things that I would look at any job that I do for somebody that's in computing or that owns a computer. Basically, a voting machine is a computer. You get what you pay for. I think you could have did better on the contract. Negotiating strategy. Part of being a leader is making tough decisions and sometimes telling people no. And going back and looking at it, and you still have time. You know, you could tell the governor to go buzz off for a couple months or even a couple weeks. The Jill Stein case really says the machines need to be put in place by the primary of 2020. We've been late for a lot of things in this county. I don't think the state's really going to hold back money from Luzerne County just for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. If it goes into January, so be it. You know, but at the end of the day, if there's going to be issues next year, you know, it's going to be basically this council's fault and the recommendation that was brought forward, because a lot of these things weren't looked at. I mean, there's still a lot of unanswered questions from the state level. And I do have to agree with Mr. Haas, you know, that the state drops these things into the county's laps at times. And we need to start pushing back as leaders, not just going with what the manager says or what a state rep says or the governor says. He's one person. The governor is only one person. He has a you know, there's 3 equal branches of government in the state of Pennsylvania. You know, you have the judicial, legislative, and the executive branch, but this wasn't an executive order. Yeah, it was a court case. But at the end of the day, I think we need to do more diligence, and I hope we don't run into any problems next year, because it's going to be on all of us.
Mr. Griffith?
I'll pass, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Rabo?
Just one thing real quick, because the solicitor said I didn't have anything in front of me. Well, now I do. Purchasing handbook from DCED says that However, awarding a contract without full and careful investigation constitutes an abuse of discretion. Where a full investigation discloses a substantial reason for exercising discretion, the municipality may award the contract to a higher bidder. And it has this footnote of number 33, which cites the case law. So I will give that to you, Madam Solicitor. It is Kratz versus City of Allentown, 1931, I'd say, and Berryhill versus Duggan, Commonwealth Court Case, 1985. So just because I didn't have something in front of me doesn't mean I don't know it. Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience? Shortly, we hope.
Motion adjourned, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Mr. Haas and Mr. Morelli, motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.